short time of 3-4 years, they have done their first disease donor kidney transplant, liver transplant, heart transplant, hand transplant, larynx transplant, and they're now talking about face transplant. So a successful model for this kind of program requires various stakeholders, be it government, private, hospitals, the public, and NGOs working together. If we do that, then we'll move forward. This has to be an inclusive program. Everybody has to be needs to play a role in this program. And if you do that, we will be able to move forward. I want to end this with 5 or 6 slides. I want to read out a legacy of Robert N. Test. And those of you who didn't raise your hands to, saying that they have not placed the organs may probably place the organs after you hear what Robert N. Test said about organ donation. His legacy reads like this. At a certain moment, a doctor will determine that my brain has ceased to function, and for all intents and purposes, my life has ceased or stopped. When that happens, don't call it my deathbed, call it my bed of life to help others lead a fuller lives. Give my blood to the teenager who has been pulled from the wreckage of his car so that he might live to see his grandchildren play. Give my eyes to a man who has never seen a sunrise, a baby's face, or love in the eyes of a woman. Give my kidneys to one who depends on a machine to exist from week to week. Give my heart to a person whose own heart has caused nothing but endless days of pain. Explore every corner of my brain, take my cells and let them grow so that someday a speechless boy will shout at the crack of a bat and a deaf girl will hear the sounds of rain against her window. Take my bones, every muscle, every fiber and every nerve from my body to find a way to make a crippled child walk. Burn what is left of me and scatter the ashes to the wind to help the flowers grow. If you must bury something, let it be my faults, my weaknesses, and all my prejudice against my fellow men. Give my sins to the devil and give my soul to God. If you do what I have asked, I shall live forever. Thank you.
Shortly after 2 sessions, we will have a group discussion, so please, we have a lot more things to interact on. May I, in the meantime, call Dr. Sujoy Kaur, the Director of Medical Services of Apollo Gleneagles, to make us aware and give us a boost that Kolkata is already ready for diseased donor organ donation.
Good evening. What happens when Harbhajan Singh comes to bat after Sachin Tendulkar goes out? This is exactly how I'm feeling. And all of you must have been enthralled with what the work that has been going on at Mohan Foundation. I heard about Mohan Foundation about 6 years back, and that was about the time when we were thinking of starting the cadaveric or disease donor transplant at Apollo Gleneagles Hospital. We all understand that Apollo is one of the busiest network of transplants across the world. In fact, we have just overtaken Cleveland Clinic 1 year back. But the one that we have been, and our chairman have always been emphasizing all over, is the way that we want to emphasize on cadaver transplant. And that is what we have been able to do in most of the cities wherever Apollo is. But we have taken a little bit backseat when it came to Kolkata, but somehow we are getting to start it at this point of time. My topic today is about, is Kolkata prepared? And I'm just going to ask you this question. Are we prepared? Yes or no? How many of you think that we are prepared? Please raise your hand. Yeah, there's the group there who probably either they're not listening, or my sound is not reaching, or they are not convinced that we are prepared yet. I'm asking them again back. Are we prepared? Yes or no? They're not convinced. So there are certain baby steps that we are taking. If you are looking at the facts and figures which Mohan Foundation just gave, and the kind of work that has happened in Tamil Nadu, and then of course in Kerala, Telangana as well, we are taking the first initial steps in getting there, and there are challenges. There are challenges in every facets of a transplant program, and I think we have to address each one of them meticulously to not to do the same mistakes which probably they have done, at the same time take the right things from the right places and put this program in that. The first is for an infrastructure of social movement. And I think that is what is very important for all of us to understand, that this has to become a social movement. And this is something that every one of us going out of this room today would talk to our first degree, second degree, and third degree people to tell what it is all about and how we can do that. Now, when Dr. Shroff was actually talking here, he asked how many of you have pledged your organs. Can I again have those hands back in the air? How many of you have actually pledged your organs? Please raise your hands. Excellent. How many of you would like to pledge the organs for your families? Excellent. How many of you will actually take a decision when somebody from your family is in the ICU on ventilator, is on life support, and is dying, that you would actually give their organs to someone? Right? The number of hands are going up, and that is what we are looking at a social movement. When most of the Calcutta or people living in Kolkata raise their hands for these causes, I think we have done it successfully, and we have been able to take on this message. Let me give you the two and couple of others stories behind the way we look at when people come to us saying that we are as a family ready to donate organs of the person who is dying. And how do we react to that, and how do we look at that? The first thing that we look at is the consent process. And in the consenting process, as Dr. Shroff was telling it very correctly, all 4 transplants that have happened in Kolkata this year are family initiated. Yes, we do pick up brain death in our ICU. We pick them up pretty regularly. We do about, say, we would have done about 20 of them. Out of those 20, the fitness to be an appropriate donor is only about 3 or 4. And that is one of the other challenges that I'm going to talk about. And out of these 3 and 4, people who would end up giving a consent is only about 1 or 2. That is what we are looking at when we are looking at the numbers of brain death and successful transplants happening. I know someday it will cross the barrier and do that. In that regard, I want to bring a very a seminal paper which had come in year 2003, and I don't have the slides for this to show you, but it's very interesting. In 2003, social scientists Johnson and Goldstein, they published a paper in which they looked at across the Europe, which are the country where there are people who have come forward to donate their organs, and something like, the pledge that you do. And across Europe, we had 2 different pictures. One was that countries like Denmark, Netherlands, Denmark had 4.25% of people saying we are going to donate. Netherlands had 27.5, UK had 17.7 and all. Whereas their neighbors like Austria, Belgium, France were all talking about 99% of people have actually said that they want to donate organs. What was the problem with these 2 group of people? Any guess? The thing was that they had a similar form which they had to put a tick, right? In one form, they had the option of opting in. And that's where people gave a tick mark, and that's where you have the numbers of 4.25 or 27.5 and all of that. Most people don't even read what is written on the form. They just either they leave it like that or just stick it on, after reading in that. For the rest of the group, they never read what was written, and it was an option of opting out of that. So they didn't have the time to cross-check. They thought that, if you don't do any marking on that, you are actually opting out of the program. And majority of these people have actually landed up pledging their organs. I think we need something here. If you are doing a pledge, it has to be an opt-out option rather than opt-in option. And you will have a lot of people actually filling up the forms, and you know that they are actually coming out that. But as we know, on that critical juncture, when you have to make a decision for someone in your family, pledge is not enough. It's something that you have to do it in that way. The second point that I wanted to talk about is about the preparedness on clinical front. And I think we have lots to learn from Tamil Nadu and other states as yet. I'm not talking here about the transplant surgeons, but I'm also talking about people who are in the critical care, who are taking care of the patients who are dying. Their resuscitation, their ventilation, their perfusion of organs is something which is very important. We found out in the last 6 months or so, of 10 patients that were suitable brain death donors, the people who would eventually end up being your proper donor is only about 2. But somehow or the other, we did not perfuse or ventilate the patients well. And this is something which is required as per the as per the state. If there are training programs to the ICU doctors to tell how to maintain those organs when somebody is actually going for brain death. It's something we have to take up very, very seriously. The second thing is the brain death committee. And I know that Government of West Bengal have come up with a lot of these hospitals who have actually formed committees and given or have nominated few of their anesthetists, ICU doctors, neurologists, neurosurgeons to actually be part of that. But I think, again, in that regard, you need a training. Because, if you look at Form 10, which is about how to go about the brain death declaration, you would have to see that there are 13 parameters. And I'd not be surprised if a lot of people don't understand how to do a proper apnea test. This education is, again, something which is fundamental, which we must do, and not only do in bigger hospitals, but also in hospitals which are, say, 50-bedded, but still have an ICU, and where potential brain death patients or donors can actually come out from. So that's another area which we have to look at very seriously. The third thing is about, look at your own checklists. And as Apollo, we maintain a checklist which has probably 33 points to actually look at the entire organ donation perspective. For live-related donor, it is about 23, 24 points. For a deceased donor, it is about 33 points in the checklist. And every organization, I believe, have to make some way or through to actually look at their own processes to actually go through that in that. Finally, I believe that the other thing that we have to do is awareness, awareness, and awareness. And I was speaking to a group of people from Red FM the other day, and the way that they have been able to actually take it to a level where they are promoting, deceased organ donation and all. And that is something that has to come. But individually, and that's my last point, is that everyone walking out of this room or whenever you have an opportunity to talk, you have to spread it to your first degree, second degree, third degree people or relatives or your the people that you meet, and talk about the advantages of organ donation. That is where the actual social movement is going to come. I teach analytics at IIT Kharagpur, and we have actually created a model by which how we are able to actually propagate a social information through social analytics to your next one, the person that you immediately know, and then that person goes into another one, and we call it in scientific terms eigenvectors. And you create as many eigenvectors possible to create the to create awareness in the community so that it is effective and it brings in many and many more deceased organ donors or families who are ready to come out with that. Thank you very much for inviting me, Dr. Ghosh.
Thank you.
And then we will probably take up questions in the later time.
Before we open the House to discussion, we have with us, with great difficulty and spared valuable time, Mr. Solomon Nesakumar, who is the DC Police Traffic. And you can understand, leaving traffic at this stage and coming to us, we are thankful, grateful for that, Mr. Nesakumar.
Good evening, everyone.
Lakshmi.
It's my pleasure and honor to be here to speak to this august gathering. And personally and from the organizational point of view, it was in our own interest for me to be here because we have also taken organ transplantation, our part to be played in organ transplantation as a priority. So I just wanted to, come and say this and make a commitment here in front of everyone that Kolkata Police and particularly the Traffic Department is more than willing to do its part in whatever we can to facilitate this process of organ transplantation. So having said that, I would like to say a few more things, from what Mr. Sunil Shroff had mentioned. He mentioned that police are more than willing to do this for positive publicity because they always get a negative publicity. That I can understand. Is just want to just relate it because that is what had happened here also in Calcutta. I don't know how many of you were aware of about maybe 2 months back, before the last one from Upperload to the SSKM, that one which had a lot of media publicity. There happened to be, or at least the media was saying that there was a organ transplantation from somewhere in Jadavpur area to Bellevue. And a particular media organization had been showing on TV that police didn't give the green corridor. And I also happened to see that, and we immediately checked up. We checked up with the hospital, with the family, and asked them whether they had really asked anyone or told anyone whether they wanted any green corridor. But both the family as well as the hospital authorities said, no, we had not asked anything. So this is the reason how we get the negative publicity also. So immediately after that, and more so on a personal note, I happen to belong to Chennai. And since Mr. Sunil Shroff has, and you must all be aware of how things are happening in Chennai. In fact, there was even a movie called Chennai Loranal. It's a Tamil movie. Chennai Loranal means one day in Chennai. The movie is about this organ transplantation and a green corridor that was provided by the Chennai City Police. The entire movie was on that. So when I saw that movie as DC Traffic, I also felt that why is it not happening here? I was just waiting to jump at any opportunity that comes my way. Because after all, we are also humans. We also have good intentions to serve the people, and that's why we are here. So we're just looking for such opportunity, and we didn't get it. And that day when Mr. Aditi Sarkar, he called me, I really jumped. I shouldn't. And immediately we sent our team. He had asked a team to report at 6 o'clock, and our team were there by 6 o'clock with a pilot and all plans done. But the actual process happened around 1:30 at night. Our team was there for the entire night, and we could get that organ transplant movement in 2 phases. First time we took about 13 minutes from Apollo Glen Eagles on the EM bypass to SSKM, and then the second time it was done in 11 minutes. And it was done because it was easier in the sense at night, as you know, the traffic here was much better. But it is not that if it is in the day, we will not be able to do it. We will do it, of course. But if given an option, if it can be planned well ahead, and from now, coming to what I want to say is that from our side, we are ready to do it at any time. That is a commitment from our side. Whenever you want it, all you need to do is just give a call to us. to the DC traffic or through the control room directly. So we will do our best to provide this green corridor. And if things can be planned, and if you can decide on the timing and all, it will be better where during non-peak traffic hours, because people have a lot of important things on their agenda, so they may be going to the airport, they may miss a flight. Of course, it will cause a little bit of traffic disruption, but it should not be an issue. So we are open at any time. That is something which we want to categorically mention. Whenever you want it, you just need to give a phone call, and our people will be in place to help you out on this. And now coming to like how we can, after this particular incident, the last major big transplantation which we had a meeting where the commissioner himself said that we will do a more proactive role in how we can support this noble cause. So in that way, as you all might be knowing, the road traffic victims, accident victims, I think they happen to be the major donors in most of the cases, road traffic victims. So we have the data, we come to know of all the road traffic accidents and the condition of the victims here. So we are ready to share the data with anyone who is willing to, work with us. In fact, we had already, thinking of or in the process of contacting NGOs who can, because our people being the first responder, they will be more in touch with the family, but it may not be appropriate given the kind of image the police generally have for our people to go and talk to them about transplantation and all. So we would do the sense that like we are ready to, first of all know about this because majority of us, including me, we don't know much. We don't know much about this organ transplantation, how it is done, what are the modalities involved. So we would like to learn. So if there is anyone who can, any NGO or any organization who can come to us and train us or sensitize us, we'll be more than willing to take that. So our people should know what are the kind of conditions in which this transplantation is possible. And second thing, like our people, instead of them speaking to the victim's family, if there are NGOs who can help us in doing that, so that will be very good. In the sense that the message, at least we had in fact even prepared a pamphlet. We have designed and prepared a pamphlet which instead of just handing it over to the victim's family and for them to take the decisions, this much we have progressed till now, but we need to progress further. For that we are looking for partners, any organization who are willing to work with us. We are more than happy to work with them. So this is it. And coming to the, wherever the organ has been transferred, they give a certification that this has been done. Then on that basis they can mention it and they match it with the body and they can give a report accordingly. If there is any other further issue which is involved, then we are ready to work. I think the government is also very much keen on this and keen on promoting this. The health department people are also in regular touch with us. Mr. Aditi Sarkar and Mr. Abhijit Chaudhary from SSKM, they are in touch with us regarding this. So we can work it out, and whatever procedural things which needs to be taken care of, I think that can be done. So in a nutshell, I would just like to say that on behalf of Calcutta Police, that we are committed to this cause and we will be more than willing to do anything to promote this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think from the dais, we thank you very much for listening to us. Now is the time, please don't leave. We will like to now, for the next 10 minutes, interact with you and get some opinions. There are very relevant people around from which we need a feedback. So can I now, with the permission of the panel here on the dais, open this for discussion. May I kickstart the discussion first of all? We have 101 myths about organ transplantation. And I don't think this is the right time to go on discussing 101. But one or two issues may be relevant. You see, it is so important to kickstart the process of donation. We have people of different faiths on the dais and on the floor. Can I pose a question? There is a belief, when I actually worked in the United Kingdom in cadaver donation, this was prevalent there also. And I'll give you a short anecdote. An organ donation was done to a white individual. When we went on the following morning on the round, the patient asked me, and this is first-hand information, "Doctor, I understand it's successful, but I believe you transplanted a black kidney to me." Okay, so that sort of questions, sensitive questions. On another occasion, he said that, "You know, last night I had a dream." And this was in Oxford, I tell you. This was not Kolkata. This was Oxford. After the operation, after the transplantation, the patient tells me the following morning, "You know, last night I had a dream, and suddenly I saw on the corner of the room, there was this Muslim person with a beard saying that that's my kidney." So these are myths we need to break. Can I ask, we have with us Reverend Father Benny Thomas, who's the principal of St. Xavier School, and we have Father Jerome Francis along with us. Is there an issue with your religion, which is being Catholic, anything against organ donation? Can I have your comments, please, on that?
I'm Father Thomas. Thank you, Doctor, for posing the question. We represent the Catholic religion, the Christian religion. In our religion, there isn't anything that will prevent an individual from donating the organ. There is no. But then people, most of them are really educated. And therefore, I believe that there is certain block preventing these people. Because everyone believes in a life after death. And perhaps what is this life after death is really not clear to most of us. And therefore, perhaps people aren't really aware of it, and therefore that is preventing. But doctrinally and scripturally, there is nothing that will prevent from donating the organ.
Anybody from the Muslim faith who would like to talk on comment? Yeah, Mushrefa?
Can I be heard? Yeah. After our first meeting, I did a bit of studying on this topic myself and spoke quite a bit. And I'd like to say that unanimously in the Muslim community, in 1988, there was an Islamic Fiqh Council in Jeddah, which was the 4th conference, in which it was declared that organ donation is absolutely allowed. It's permissible, again, without money transaction. But again, it's sad that in India and Pakistan, still majority Muslim scholars feel otherwise. But universally, majority believe that it is permissible.
Good.
There's
So
no,
this is the message.
no harm.
You know, religion is no bar. I mean, like everything else, educated people need to propagate